and try to become introverts, to travel into themselves, to discover truth, to practice detachment. There are people who try to offer their own interests for higher interests which attracted them. The interests go on replacing higher and higher until they culminate in one goal. This is one part. Some people begin to question themselves. Where from all these living beings are coming? Why the truth of birth exists? Why lifespan? Why going into death? Why problems in life? Why exists the misery and poverty? And what should we do? What is it that is binding us? And what way we should behave to get liberated from the bondage? Some people question themselves about every incident in their life and begin to follow the path which is better and better until they reach the goal. All these people reach the same goal, and that is spiritualism. First of all, we should make our mind broader and try to think that no one of the spiritual paths is false. The fact that there are so many paths to approach spiritualism neither disproves spiritual life nor disqualifies it. And what is actually spiritualism? Why we should try for it? There is one fact about spiritual training. It is not true that we should try for it. It is true that we are going to, it remains as a sure prophecy ahead of every one of us. Every flower becomes a fruit according to the date of its maturity. And every fruit is going to get ripe from the acidity and the bitter taste. It turns sweeter and sweeter still until it gives sweetness to people and drops its seed on earth. This is a sure prophecy of a flower. The only duty of the gardener is to see that the flower is not eaten by any worm. This is, in short, the formula of spiritualism. When we do our duty as a gardener, then the flower becomes a fruit and the prophecy is fulfilled as sure as anything. We should remember that the gardener is not responsible for the flower to becoming the fruit. It's an automatic process, a process offered to the flower by nature, not by the gardener. The duty of an individual is the duty of a gardener. The soul has charted out its plan and it is taking its journey. Nothing can stop it, neither mind nor senses nor desires. Nothing can stop it. No bondage can exist to the journey of soul. If at all bondage exists, it exists to the mind and not the soul. And whenever such a bondage exists, it is not of any external causes. It is only self-conditioning. It is only a temporary stage from which once again the mind receives, at least at the time of death, if not before death. And the process of rebirth continues until we learn to do it before death. And when we learn to do it before death, the purpose is fulfilled. And the whole thing is a beautiful story written by a good playwright who is a wonderful artist and who exists in every character of his story and who hates not any one of the characters of his story. And it is the process of searching for this author of the story. He creates the story in such a way that the characters are galvanized into life. They begin to speak, they begin to act, they begin to have their own point of view. They train themselves into independence of action, create their own individual future, which is bound to come into clash with other individual futures, and then gets involved, and then feels like disentangling the involvement, and then makes attempts. This is what is called the real aptitude for spiritualism. Someday or other, at some point of our maturity, we feel the need of questioning ourselves. Why life is going in a tide? What's the purpose of our living? Sometimes we may answer to ourselves that we are living to eat and drink and sleep. But the mind is not going to stop there. Tomorrow it questions further. He asks us, my dear fellow, it's not the goal of life. There is something else. And I prefer to know that something. When this questioning comes from within, it is called spiritualism. Sometimes we observe people who got the maturity and we try to imitate them. And again, we also question in the same way. But when the time is not right, our questioning is only a mimicry and not sincerity. We study philosophy, we go to gurus and get initiations. We try to question why the creation comes and all that. We try to question why this creation comes and all that. But as long as it is not a question that has started from within ourselves, it remains only as a philosophy, as a mimicry, and we are apt to forget about it within a few years. In such case, we make again and again starting for our spiritual life. Even in one birth, we make many spiritual beginnings. That means our questioning is not true. That means we try to imitate others in our questioning. We try to practice spiritualism as a club life, as a passion. So we soon lose interest in it. Again, after some time, we get into the questioning. After some repetitions by way of imitation, then the real time comes. The questioning starts from within, and then the change begins to occur. The flower is pollinated, and it becomes fruit. The journey will be traced. The journey of the soul, which has been already taking place for a long time, will be traced and understood by the mind and intellect. Then the mind and the intellect become disciples of the soul.
Jünger der Seele.
Then they follow the same path. Soon they get lost in the soul. The taste of the soul is the only one real taste in life. The soul is the only container of the spirit. Then a quest for spirit is defined as spiritualism. What is spirit? What's the difference between soul and spirit? Spirit is that which is in every one of us, but never belongs to any one of us. And all that we have belongs to it. Suppose there is space in this hall. We are using this space according to our own advantage for many purposes. At the same time, this space doesn't belong to anyone. It was there before the building was constructed. Before the person purchased it, it was there. Even after we purchase, it is not ours. It is only a psychological satisfaction that it is ours. Similarly, our bodies are constructed in space, and inside also there is space. That inside space is called spirit, whereas the space between two persons is called space. This is all the difference. We think that space is empty, but the one who is existing in all of us is nothing but space. The one existence smiled to himself. He proposed, let me be many, and let us take the characters of many people, and let each character communicate with others. Then he became many. Each of the fellows is living his own life, away from the one who is existing. So we have the container and the contained inner. The indweller or the content in his purest form is the space inner, and he is descending into all the vehicles, and the vehicles are feeling their existence separately from him, and certain amount of independence of action is proposed. And then there is the birth of the struggle. So some people try to investigate into the matter, and they discovered that the spirit in everyone is always unchanged. It is neither born nor is dead, but it is always enacting the drama of birth and death. It is the only one fellow who is enacting the drama of many indwellers of many bodies, who is enacting the drama of many indwellers. This is the first thing that those who could see convey us. And then they discovered that these vehicles have their own activity, which for the time confuses us. And when we behave with these vehicles properly, we can live as true ourselves. That is the pure indweller. And then these vehicles exist in us. For example, the body, mind and senses, and the vital force, and various actions of our vehicles.
Okay.
They are automatic and natural. As long as we do not meddle with them wrongly, they function in a normal way. And instead of our getting entangled in them, they will exist in us. They will operate as long as it is their span. And when the appointed time is finished, they once again disappear into ourselves. This is what the truth seekers found from all corners of the globe. The same truth has been discovered. Irrespective of nation, race and religion, the same truth has been echoed, and they began to check out a way of life which enables us to live in awareness of the spirit, a continuous awareness which is not disturbed whenever the mind is disturbed by objective causes. For example, worry, fear, anger, sorrow, and the changes that are inevitable in life. The changes that occur to the vehicles, these should not condition the indweller. When we establish the awareness of our eternal existence, when we grow in self-confidence more and more, when we understand that the changes in these vehicles are natural, then gradually the mind stops to respond to these changes, because the truth seekers made a discovery about the mind. The mind is not an existence or an entity itself.
Eine Wesenheit für sich selbst.
It is true only under certain conditions. Under natural conditions, the mind does not separately exist. It is we that are really existing. And as long as there is disturbance, there is the existence of what we call mind. If you take the example of a lake having ripples upon it, the lake is not the ripples, but the ripples have their temporary existence, different from the lake. But at the same time, the existence of the ripples is only a conditioned fact. As long as there is a disturbance on the surface of the lake, there is the existence of the waves. So the truth of the existence of the wave is only temporary. The moment the lake becomes the lake becomes still, then there are no ripples. So the existence of ripples is only a conditioned and temporary existence. What we call mind and what we call the objective perception is only a conditioned truth like this. And when the surface is made clear, and when it is made still and free from flickering, then there is no mind separate from you. There are no senses and perceptions that are different from you. Then you begin to exist in your true sense. You begin to feel your own experience. See how the moon's reflection appears in the lake. When there is disturbance on the lake, when there are ripples, the moon appears like broken pieces. Though it is a reflection, it is not real. Similarly, what appears to our mind and senses, though it is a reflection of our environment, it's not real. It is only as it appears. It is only our creation. This is another fact that the great ones discovered. What we see as this world is only our impression of the world and not the world at all. From the level of how it appears, we have to travel to the stage of how it is actually. We have our own impression of the world, We have our enemies and friends, whereas there are only persons in the world, neither enemies nor friends. We have good people and bad people around us. They exist only in our mind, whereas only people exist, neither good nor bad. So a certain amount of cleansing process is required to travel from a life of untruth to a life of truth, from a life which we are creating to ourselves every moment to a life which is our background, from which we are created every moment. This process, when properly followed, when the discipline is observed,
eingehalten wird,
when we follow it to the legitimate end, and when we experience the true experience of our eternal existence, then the process is called spiritualism. This, in short, is the definition of the word spiritualism. Then what is the process to approach it? What is the rhythm of our life? What are the nature of movements that are going on in us? We are making many irregular movements in the day, irregular movements. But the activity that is automatically taking place in us is not at all irregular.
unregelmäßig.
It is regular and rhythmic. For example, the respiration and the heartbeat, unless we disturb them again and again, unless our respiration or heart goes into disease, it is a rhythm and a music that is going on. This is what we observe. What is there is a life of rhythm, and what we sometimes make through our disturbance and tampering is an activity which is irregular. Open your eyes and look around you. There is much irregular activity. There are inequalities. There are disturbances, enmities, struggles, fights, wars, poverty, sorrow, disease and death. But understand that this is self-made. This is all a story that mankind has created to itself. Nature never created any one of these things to either man or to animal or to beast. If we pause a little and look to the background, we will understand that there is perfect rhythm outside our life also. Instead of eating, sleeping, living and dying, let us observe what is going on around us. The sunrise and the sunset, the day and the night, the splendors of twilight, the cycle of waters, how water is getting evaporated and going up, forming into clouds, how clouds are coming down again in the form of rain, how the cycle of waters is going round and round every year, how the new moon and full moon alternate, how the moon phases increase and decrease, how the seasons of cycles in the year come in the same succession. Can you find anything that is not rhythmical in this world, except that which is tampered by the human being? Men find some days are good for them and some days are bad. The astrologer says these years are favorable for you, those years are unfavorable. But nature has created only days, neither good days nor bad days.
Okay.
Good days and bad days are created by human beings, whereas days are created by nature. So great people could understand the rhythm that is and within themselves also. And they began to get themselves calm and undisturbed. And then they objectively tried to understand what's the cause of the disturbance of the rhythm. Why man is disturbed?
Stört.
Why he is unhappy? Why he is sorrowful? Then they could understand another truth, that man is not able to understand the syllabus of nature. When once we understand the syllabus of nature, and when we can follow accordingly, we can immediately come out of these chain actions, the chain actions that bind us, the chain actions that every one of us created for himself or herself. And man discovered that there are polarities in nature.
Yes.
There are poles in nature,
Es gibt
supplementaries and complementaries working as pairs, wrongly understood as opposites. For example, darkness and light, cold and heat, convenience and inconvenience. So these are the things that are to be properly understood. They include the mechanism of nature. We have neither the right nor the capability to disturb the mechanism of nature. The best thing we can do is to understand the mechanism of nature, try to handle nature with care, and live a life of perfect harmony. When these polarities are neutralized, for example, when it is too cold and inconvenient outside, we can create some heat in the room and be comfortable. When it is too hot outside in the summer in a country like India, we can have a little air cooling inside and be comfortable. We can't control the sun or the rain, but we are permitted to discover an instrument like an umbrella, and we are permitted to use it. So the skill and the dexterity with which we can tackle the polarities of nature, the common sense with which we understand the seemingly opposites in nature, enables us to have a certain amount of mastery over ourselves and over our environment and over mutual relationships. This is the next truth that the spiritualists discovered. But suppose our electricity failed. We have no heater in our room when it is winter. Then what to do?
Was dann?
Generally, we get dejected. We get broken-hearted. But there is a way of surviving these things also. You have no business to suffer when you have heat in the room, but at the same time, you have no business to get broken-hearted and perish when there is no heat in the room. You are expected to live above and beyond these polarities. When a ship is wrecked, when you are going into the ocean, into the bottomless basin, until the last moment, there is a possibility of trying to save another fellow. Instead of getting broken-hearted that we are drowning. When death is inevitable, is it better to die as fools with a broken heart, or is it better to die as plants and trees that are not at all sorry when we are eating them? This is one question in the scriptures. The scriptures say, observe the plants and observe the legumes and fruits you eat. They die, but they don't feel their death. That is why they are useful to you. Just try if you can practice it. One thing is sure, for all those who are born in the physical body, disease, old age and death are sure prophecies. They need no